It is the eve of another big election day. Donald Trump could sweep all 5 contests in the East tomorrow. He has a double-digit lead in all of them. His rivals know they can no longer mathematically clinch the nomination before the convention, so they've drummed up a plan. Ted Cruz and CruzKasich are coordinating their efforts to stop Trump in 3 upcoming states. The deal will keep Kasich on the sidelines for Indiana's primary and Cruz out in Oregon and New Mexico. They spoke about their agreement on the trail today.
It is big news today that CruzKasich has decided to pull out of Indiana to give us a head-to-head contest with Donald Trump. That is good for the men and women of Indiana. It's good for the country. I understand that Donald will whine. That's what he does. Donald is a sore loser.
The two of us are competing to win the nomination and to make sure that we can steward our resources so we can stop Hillary Clinton. What Donald Trump needs to understand is that he cannot beat Hillary Clinton. I'm not campaigning in Indiana, and he's not campaigning in these other states. That's all. That's all it is.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.
Not a big deal.
As you can imagine, Trump has a few things to say about it.
If you collude in business or if you collude in the stock market, they put you in jail. But in politics, because it's a rigged system, because it's a corrupt enterprise, in politics, you're allowed to collude. So they colluded, and actually I was happy, because it shows how weak they are. It shows how pathetic they are. Kasich, we call him 1 for 41. I thought it was 38. He's won 1 race in 41 states. 1.
Now you look at Kasich. I don't think he knows what, did you see him? He has a news conference all the time when he's eating. I have never seen a human being eat in such a disgusting fashion. I watched Cruz this morning, and he's all mixed up because he's losing so badly. And when he's under pressure, he's like a basket case.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, you know he was going to take too kindly to the collusion, so to speak. But, Eric, as we were listening to the sound bites there, you heard kind of the difference, the juxtaposition between how Senator Ted Cruz phrased this alliance and how Kasich said it.
So 3 quick thoughts on this. The first one is, when I heard this was going on, I was like, man, why would they do this? They're playing right into what Donald Trump wants them to play. Trump has been saying all along, it's us versus them. It's I'm the outsider. They're corrupt. They're Washington, D.C. They're the elitists. They're the establishment. It's us against them. And then these 2 guys decide to get together and do exactly what Trump is saying D.C. is all about. So that was the first point. I think this is going to end up playing in Trump's favor. Number 2 is, when I heard Cruz today say Kasich, quote, Kasich pulled out of Indiana, I thought, oh, my God, when Kasich hears this, he's going to fire back. And the point being, be sure you know who you're getting into bed with and make sure the other person wants to get in bed with you, too. Otherwise, it could be ugly. Because now, if this thing doesn't work, if it does work, you're going to end up having a contested convention, and everyone's going to say, wow, the Republicans are divided, and see what happens. But if it doesn't work, you basically just handed the whole thing to Donald Trump. I didn't think that was a sensible thing to do. And the third point is, it's just the ugly, for the outsiders who are watching this thing from afar going, they're D.C., it says, you know what, they do play by a different set of rules than we do on a day-to-day basis. And I think this is going to backfire for them, for Cruz and Kasich.
He didn't know what the word collusion meant. It was Hillary Clinton's version of wiped. When Ed Henry asked Hillary Clinton, what does wipe mean? What does it mean? Like physically wipe? Don't pretend like you don't know. He said, collusion. What are you talking about, collusion? And then when asked, this isn't a big deal. Ted Cruz says it is a big deal. He says it is a big deal. What do you say to voters that want to vote for you? I still want you to vote for me. I'm just not going to run ads. Well, what is it? This is the worst diabolical plan ever because no one's on the same page. The same thing when Rubio tried to do this earlier in the race. He decided to say, you know, Kasich has no shot. I'll pull out of here. Kasich's like, what are you talking about? I'll take my 4 voters and leave me alone. It makes no sense. It's as if they did not speak.
Can I just throw a quick example in here? And Donald Trump points this out. In the business world, if you did this, you'd go to jail. If Coke and Pepsi decided to get together and have a deal to wipe out everyone else or another competitor that wanted to get into the marketplace, they'd be broken up. They'd say, no, you can't do that. Someone might get in trouble. But instead, they look at each other, they wink, they do a nod, and they both market themselves.
Baseball did
and hope. Right, exactly. It's the same thing.
Well, Kasich was more fair
about it than
Cruz.
it just shows how ugly politics can be.
All right, Dana, so what did you think of this strategy overall in terms of, and speak specifically to the individual campaigns, meaning how do you think, does it benefit Cruz more than Kasich? Would you have made this deal?
Well, there's a reason that this hasn't happened before now, which is it's really hard. And if you're a candidate that's been raising money and you have supporters in those various states and you've got a delegate strategy, it's really hard to admit that you're not going to get to the 1237 and that you're going to have to try to work with another partner. I actually think that collusion is a terrible word for it. It's a strategy, and politics is a tough game, and they have a strategy. It may not work. It does smack of a little bit of desperation, but it may work. And so I think if I were Donald Trump, of course, my advice would be totally different for him anyway, but consider me the Ainsley Hayes of Fox News. You guys remember Ainsley Hayes? No. She was the lone Republican who worked at in the West Wing for the Bartlett administration on the show. And they'd pull her up out of the basement every once in a while and say, what's really going on? What do you think? And it was only her opinion. So I'm the Ainsley Hayes of Fox News at the moment. If I were Donald Trump, I wouldn't have even addressed this. Because what he did is revert back to exactly what everyone was praising him for not doing last week, which was being so presidential. The first thing he had to do was attack them personally. And he doesn't like to be handled. Like Manafort and those guys are like, here, try this. And he's like, but the people like me like this, and we like it. We're sitting here watching it laughing. I think if I were him, I would have let my surrogates handle Cruz and Kasich, who are so desperate down there below, that so far below them, so far behind in the delegate count, and he could have used today to attack Hillary Clinton and just show, like, I'm going to be the general election candidate that you want me to be. I will show you that I can beat her. That's a different way. That would have been,
that would have been interesting because now he has surrogates, right, rather than just his family.
He has more, right?
Yeah. And he has a new national poll showing these within statistical margin of error, like 3-4 percentage points.
Why not use this on Tuesday? Why not try to collude on Tuesday, tomorrow? Why just say May 3rd? I'm really going to affect the race, and later on in Oregon. Why not try to collude for tomorrow? Right. Because if you combine, theoretically, Kasich's numbers and Cruz's numbers, so wait till Wednesday then.
But tomorrow, Trump has like a 25 to 30-point lead in most of these states.
He can take all five.
So that's the point. So that's the point. That's the big story here, is that the numbers, the poll numbers, are overwhelming for Trump tomorrow. In 5 states, I think it's 100 plus 70 delegates at stake. Okay, so he wraps that up. What we're really talking about are states like Indiana. Because when you get to Indiana, then you're trying to block Trump from having the 1372, whatever it is, 71. So the question...
1237.
1237. So the question then becomes, if you can stop Trump, and if you're Cruz, you think you have now, because over the weekend, Cruz amassed, again, a number of people who promised to vote for him.
Second round.
If you come to a second round of voting at the convention. So this is a smart move for Ted Cruz. For John Kasich, it's a desperation move. It's a move that says, you know what, I think if we get to the open convention, I can make the case that my numbers are sufficient to beat Hillary Clinton. Guess what? Ted Cruz doesn't have that. That's his play in this game. I think Donald Trump, as Dana was saying, he didn't need to respond to this because at the moment, going into tomorrow, he's in great shape. But you notice he is now focused heavily on Indiana. And that's because that's where the game is.
He went there the day after New York.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying. That's where they're focused. That's where Manafort, that's where this new team, that's at Trump. But this idea that it helps Donald Trump, no, it doesn't help. It might help him with people who are already voting for him, but that doesn't matter. Well, what we're talking about now is, can he unify the Republican Party? Can he move beyond the base?
You don't think that some people are going to say, I kind of like Ted Cruz and I kind of like John Kasich, but now that they're going to conspire or get together to try and take out the front runner, maybe I'll move it over there.
No,
I think nobody's issue.
That's, I mean, might be an issue for people who already feel that, it's the Republican Party's too in lockstep, betrayed them and all that. But those people are already voting for Trump. They're not voting for,
I don't know.
I don't see them leaving.
It's certainly an all-in strategy for not Donald Trump, because he can still lose Indiana and still go forward saying, hey, I'm still fighting here. But if he wins Indiana, I would say Cruz and Kasich put all their chips in and went for it. And if it doesn't work for them there,
you don't understand. If
they both need to drive it to a contested
Right.
convention. That's
Right.
the
Last
bottom
ditch.
line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you believe one poll, I mean, I think the Fox poll has Cruz within 5. So can Kasich, not spending money, get him those 5 points?
That was the whole
In theory, possibly. However, a lot of people that don't vote for Kasich might go, I'm going, Trump is my number 2.
Well, that's possible, but I think Kasich has like 19% in Indiana, right?
Yeah, it's get to 19 or 20.
Right, okay. So that's a lot. So that's a lot.
I
And
agree.
and remember,
I'm
it's
Kasich.
70%.
I'm like, why am I bad? Why do I have to leave?
What do you mean?
Because I'm in the game. You know.
Yeah. No, but it's
I
cooperation.
agree. I don't think
it's
he
more
should have
like
given
an
it up at
alliance.
all.
I don't think it's collusion. You guys, I think that's Donald Trump's word because
Well,
it suggests some illegality. But it's more
Ron,
like a political
if you
alliance.
back out of a contest,
Yes, but
so
perception
as
becomes
to let
reality.
someone else
Trying to spin
win,
it.
so that he can defeat the other guy and then try and win over. It just reeks. It just smacks of like politics. No, we don't do that in business.
Imagine politics in this
You
place.
don't do it in life. You don't do it in business.
Of course
you
do
don't
it in
do it in
life.
sports.
Are
No,
you
don't.
kidding?
No, you don't lose. Would you tell your kid to
You do it Survivor. You do it Survivor.
Oh,
It's
that's-
all about alliance.
do it all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all about
I thought
alliances.
this
It's an
was a reality
alliance.
TV election.
Until you get to the finals, then you turn on your belt.
Well,
Did
she's
you guys,
gonna say-
did you guys watch Game of Thrones? Hey, they do it all the time.
No.
Blood sport.
Oh, really? Fiction.
One more thought from
It was,
Ainsley
I was
Hayes.
just thinking of, Ainsley Hayes. Cruz and Kasich. It's sort of like, let's say that they have like family businesses and they're about to be taken over, hostile takeover by the corporation, the hedge funds coming in. And they say that they know that their dreams, their family business is over in the future. They want to stave it off as long as possible. So they're going to get together and try to make a bigger corporation so that they can go forward and not have the hostile takeover. It may not work. They may end up having to say, sorry, Dad, we lost the business, and then the Republican Party will have to
The only
reprogram.
problem
No
with
more
that
general
analogy
store.
is it's not a takeover by Trump of Cruz and Kasich. It's the voters. It's the customers of those
No, that's
corporations
right. No, I'm saying-
who've decided to go to the big company instead of the
Not
small
all, but not all of
70%,
them.
not
But not all of
70% of
them.
the
Exactly,
Republicans.
Juan.
Okay. If you want to use that metric, 90-something% of the Republicans don't want Kasich and 80% don't want Cruz. So
Yeah,
there,
boy.
there you
I don't
have it.
think
Poor
John
party.
Kasich could have. And he said it nice. John Kasich was a gentleman
That's
about it. He's out here, I'm out there. Anyway, before we go, 2 programming notes. Trump and Cruz will both be on Hannity tonight. Tune in for those exclusive interviews at 10 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow night, catch an extra hour of The 5. At midnight, we're going to be live breaking down the results of tomorrow's battle for the East. We hope you'll join us. We don't want to be lonely.